Delay if you have to, Kim. I can't see me on the screen. Do I need to go out and come back in? Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Transcendent. Transcendent is the weekly Facebook Live broadcast of San Antonio in black, white, and brown. And you can see I'm all decked out today. I have my Make America Great hat on. But this can't happen until this happens. Make America godly again. This can't happen until this happens. Make America godly again. A country is not made great by its policies. Blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord. It's God who lifts a nation, and it's God who puts one down. And he does so out of his own sovereignty. But we're thankful for the direction that we seem to be headed in. We're going to talk something about that tonight. This day one of what happens right at day one of the inauguration and the day after, changes that are taking place, what you can anticipate going forward. So let's get the housekeeping stuff out of the way first. Thank you for those of you who faithfully supported SABWB in 2024. I'd ask you to prayerfully consider stepping up your support in 2025. Do something incrementally greater, perhaps, than what you did in 2024. There's a lot laid out for us to do. If you have not received my newsletter yet, you will be soon. It's gone out, and we have listed there for you the things that we were able to accomplish together in 2024, and also what you can anticipate us doing in 2025. And the list is sizable. So you can help in many ways. You can be our monthly contributors, as many of you are. Your faithful gifts is what allows us to maintain this office space, work with leaders in our city, do functions, partner with others that do functions that keep building the functionality of the kingdom of God in our city. And there's a lot more of that on tap in 2025. We're going to change our own office space up here to be a blog space. I'll be using the furniture that's in that office for some alternate reasons, and you will be able to see that room transform into a blog space that is attractive to the creative eye and certainly functional for us to be able to do the things that we need to do to get the message out and to motivate you to be the active portion, the active remnant of the body of Christ that is both informed and strategically released to do the things necessary to see change happen, both in our city, our state, and in our nation. But SABWB's focus is primarily on the city. Although while we'll be looking at national things today, there are national policies and things that have direct bearing on the cities while we're looking at those things today. And of course, we're in just 2 days away from a wonderful inauguration and ceremony. And I'm thankful that we are where we are. All of you, please, Isaac, I see you're on tonight, and the others of you that are coming on, I can see you on my phone, and I'll give you a shout out as soon as your name appears. So thank you for joining us tonight. There's several ways you can support. You can be our monthly partner. You can go to sabwb.org, sabwb.org. You see on the screen there are several ways you can give. You can give online at sabwb.org and just click donate and follow us there. I'd rather you click the member icon, become a member icon, or become a partner icon, because then you'll have to follow a couple of very easy prompts, and you'll become registered as our monthly partner. But what that allows you to do, there is a portion of our website that is for partners only. Back there, we'll be putting our blogs there because we're going to be doing some things in our room up here on leadership training. We'll be doing some things on discussing issues that are pressing in on us at the moment, and the insights that we bring people in to that room to glean for you. We will post them in our partners area in the back. So thank you for becoming a partner with us here at SABWB. You can also support by purchasing my book. The book is entitled The Footprints of a Prophet. The Footprints of a Prophet. It's written on the life of Bishop V.T. Williams, the late and great Bishop V.T. Williams. He went home to be with the Lord in May of 2024. One of the most profound people I've ever met. This is a simple man. God used him, had anointing on his life for change, and God used him incredibly in the world. And when I heard his story, I just knew that his story is just as legit as anybody we would read about here in the U.S., a T.L. Osborne or an Oral Roberts or R.W. Shambach. In fact, he ministered in many places with some of those men particularly, and in some spaces forerunning for them, and at other times going in after them. A profoundly used man of God, and real keys in his life as a prophet. He's called as a prophet to the nation, his grandfather would say, and that prophetic mantle became apostolic, and he began to do incredible stuff in the island nation of Jamaica. They still hold an annual conference each year in August, the second week in August, for the Jamaica Evangelistic Association, which was founded and formed and operated under the leadership of the late Apostle V.T. Williams. In my book, there are things there that they're invaluable keys that when you read and you see the scenario, just supernatural power of God. It's like reading the book of Acts, literally. The same stuff you see in Acts, you see in the pages of that book. And these are not fictitious tales. These are the people that I've interviewed personally. It took me a long time to do that work. And the book is on the screen now. Go to Zulon.com. Go to Zulon.com. Purchase your copy there. Although you can buy it in any major bookstore. You can buy it at Barnes and order it at Barnes and Nobles, or you can order it on Amazon. You can get it in Kindle. All of those places it's available to you. But when you order it through Zulon.com, it makes the most impact here in this ministry. So take your time and order yourself a copy. Make it be something that you determine to read at the front of this very, very powerful season of time that we have right now. If you go a couple shows back, you'll be able to hear me talk about 5785. That's the biblical year, 5785, and what 8 and 5 means in Hebrew context, and what we should be anticipating as we look forward through this 2025 year on the Gregorian calendar. We have a lot to look forward to, and some of the stuff I'm going to be telling you about tonight. The other way that you can support SABWB is by drinking coffee. You can support SABWB by drinking coffee. I'll tell you where we are in the process and where we need to be before you are able to say, Bishop Flowers, where can I order my coffee and and drinking a cup of coffee. Hello, Melba. Drinking a cup of coffee um, fuels ministry. I think that's so important, so key, and it is premium grade organic coffee as well. It's in pod form now. The pods have been duly tested, and they're able um, to be properly used in a Keurig or a coffee maker, and you'll get the full benefit of that rich organic premium coffee that you so enjoy in the mornings and at different times of the day. Um, where we are right now, we're looking at about a 10K, $10,000 hurdle that we have to get across because the coffee that we have is in uh, bean form. That bean has to be roasted. Roasting costs. After it's roasted, it's also got to be packaged. That packaging also costs. So for us to begin to self-perpetuate coffee sales, we need about 10 grand. I know some of you listening to me tonight can say, hey, you know what? As Because I believe in what God is doing with you and what He's doing with SAPWB, I have it. I'm going to give it. And some of you may be listening now. Others of you that are going to listen at times in the future can help us get through that 10K window. And so, if that's you, then feel free. Mark Valdez, glad to see you on here tonight. Ain't seen you in a while, man, but it's good to see you on. Uh, give an opportunity to look at some of that, and then we can begin to start taking orders for coffee, and that becomes self-perpetuating and self-generating. But we do have that about that $10,000 hurdle that we need to get over. So thank you for participating in it in that way. You can read our book, purchase our book. You can buy our coffee, and all of that fuels ministry and moves us ahead. You already read and you already drink coffee, so it's already something that you are already personally involved in. But when you change the direction of how you do that, of course, it has great impact on our ministry here at SABWB. So you help ministry, you build a small business, and you lift farmers out of poverty halfway around the world. There's a very good likelihood that I'll be going back to Rwanda in April of this year, the early part of April. Part of it will be taking a look at these fields. Part of it will be leadership development in the nation of Rwanda and in Uganda. Uh, God has opened an effective door there through our partner on the ground in Rwanda, Pastor Rukundo, uh, one of the kindest men of God that I know. When I say kind, I mean his spirit is kind. He is intense about the things of God, but his spirit is just a kind man. And I so love him, and we're grateful to God that we're able to hook up with him and do some stuff in the nation of Rwanda and in Uganda, because he has personal ties in both of those nations, and God has opened doors. The last time we were there, we went into both those nations, Rwanda and Uganda, and now that has gained momentum significantly, and there is a likelihood that whether we go back or not, they're going to meet in April, but the invitation has been made for me to come join them, as seeing that I was a part of the initial process to get that moving, and so we're grateful to God for it. Uh, all your giving, all of the things that you do, fuel the ministry and the call and the destiny of God upon our lives to fulfill all of that. So I just want to thank you again for all of those ways. Now, I'm going to go to commercial with you, and I think the first commercial you're actually going to see is that I'm standing in the coffee fields in Rwanda. Rukundo and I have driven up from Kigali up to this mountain location, and the coffee fields that we own are there. And we, being my youngest daughter and her husband Ayo, and my wife and I also have a hectare there as well. So we're grateful to God for the productivity of all of that. You'll see the cherries in my hand. Harvest season is upon us again. And see, that means harvest season also means a financial outgo because it has to be shipped. It's got to be shipped from Rwanda. It's got to come to port here in the U.S. It's got to be trucked to here. This stuff costs. So all of you who can see that this process has begun and you want to help us close the loop and become self-perpetuating, you have an opportunity to do that. So let's go to this commercial. When we come back from commercial, I'm going to look at day one, some day one stuff with you and see what that means to the body of Christ. But let's go to the fields of Rwanda, and I'll be right back right after this. All right, I'm here in Rwanda, and we're up in the coffee farms right now. So I've been telling you about the upcoming Be Easy Coffee organic premium coffee. And these are beans that I have in my hand. These are brand new beans. There's already a harvest already in place. These are just the early parts of the second harvest. And these beds that you see that are now empty will be full of organic premium coffee beans. And you have an opportunity to get a bag of Be Easy coffee for yourself. And we're going to work, of course, as I said before, on the San Antonio blend for SABWB. You'll be able to get your coffee mug and sip premium organic coffee. I told you it was coming, and it's on the way. Okay. And that on the way journey has been tedious. It's been a grind. Not sure what happened. I hope I'm still broadcasting because my screen just went blank. Okay, so my producer tells me we're okay. I'll just keep moving, although I don't see anything on my screen. So let's move quickly now into our subject matter for today. Day one, after the inauguration. What's going on with that? Let me just run through a list with you, and as we run through the list, we'll be able to see and point up and point out some things that I think are very, very particular for you. We're going through now a list of executive orders. Executive orders is the right of the executive office to begin. It's a tool used by the executive office, the executive branch of government. You know, we have three branches. We have a judicial branch, which is the Supreme Court. We have a legislative branch, which is the House and the Senate. And we have an executive branch, which is the president and his cabinet. When the president is inaugurated or when established to be in office, then he and his executive team can begin to make things happen in a way that they think best for the government of the country and in representation. That is, the way they think best as framed and built around our founding documents, the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. So they don't have a carte blanche. They must operate within the context of those founding documents, the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution. But it gives latitude, of course, for the different presidential regimes to come on and do that in a way they think most effective and that best serves the country. Now, we have a president in Donald Trump, whether you like him or not, and I know some of you may be even triggered by what I have on. I'm not wearing it to trigger you. I'm wearing it unless it's perhaps to trigger you thinking. Just let me on that note, let me just parenthetically insert right here. And I want to talk to some of our black folks right now. I'll be publishing a book this year, my second book. I'll be publishing it this year. It will be entitled Black America Be Healed. because there are some issues that we as a people in this nation have to deal with. Just carte blanche, let me say to you that the U.S. black population is about 13% of the total population of the U.S. However, we're over 33% of the abortions that take place in this country take place on black women. Now think about that with me for a while. Blacks are 13% of the population. Let's say that 13% is split in half between male and female, because the general population in the country is about 50-50. It's a little bit more female than male, but close to 50-50. So let's say that this 13% is also 50% male, 50% female plus. That means that of the 13% of the population, only 6.5% of them are women, black women. Only 6.5% of the population are black women. So when we look at this 6.5% and consider them all to be black women, we have to also consider that some among that population are post-menopausal. They're no longer childbearing years. And some among that population also are premenstrual, that have not yet begun to have their menstrual cycle. So of that 6.5%, you might have healthy 4% of the population that are black women, childbearing age black women. And that 4% is responsible for 33% plus of the abortions that took place in the country prior to Roe v. Wade being overturned. So abortion is a frontal attack on the genocide of African America. But it's a genocidal move that we have embraced because of a political stance that we have taken. We've embraced a political body that convinces us that our own genocide is what we ought to do. I'll be speaking on February the 8th in the city of Austin with one of the few organizations in our state that is pointed at educating the African American community. It's called Embrace Life. Pointed at the African American community, educating that community to see that we must turn away from this self-genocidal act of supporting anything that encourages the destruction of our own sons and daughters, African sons and daughters. I'll be there February the 8th with Debbie Julke and that host of wonderful people in Austin that are beginning to make that happen. I just saw today that Sylvia Johnson out of Houston is also going to be one of the keynote speakers there. I'm excited about being a part of that with her. So keep those things in mind. There has to be some change. There has to be change, Black America, change in our perspective. You look in the prison system, you see the same thing. The majority of the prison system, you look, the majority of the prison system is made up of Black and brown people, when in terms of the population in the country, we're a very small percentage. So there's a ton of us that are dying through abortion. There's a ton of us that are imprisoned, and there's a ton of us that is annihilating ourselves again with crime that is taking place in our own communities. Like a couple of summers ago, when you saw the riots take place all over our country, it was people burning down, Black people, Black and brown people burning down their own community. Actually, it wasn't Black people burning their own community. It was Antifa dressed in Black coming into our communities and saying that they're angry and they're burning our living places, our inner cities down. So there must be some change. That's got to be some change that takes place in that arena. And so Black America Be Healed is pressing toward that. You're going to hear more about that next month because it's Black History Month next month. And so I'm going to be doing some excerpt stuff with you and to put that book out, get it out early enough for these things to be brought up and thought up where you are concerned. So with all of that taking place, now let's turn our attention toward, and by the way, the Black community and the brown community turned in a greater percentage of vote to this Republican candidate for president than at any prior point in U.S. history. Greater percentage of votes came from, and here's the shocking thing, Black America. Here's the shocking thing again, and this is pointed really at the Black church. I'm just going to go ahead and because we're talking now, we're just talking today about where we are with reference to the inauguration and this leadership and what has been done. I have a list of things here that I want to talk to you about tonight, but I want you to hang with me, hang in your thinking, in your prayer. I see Aller Adams, Joe Cadell, a bunch of you are on. Thank you so much for jumping on with me tonight. Mark, Tora, Way, James, it's great to see you. Irene, good to see you as well. Melvin, Isaac, and Marilyn, and all of you that have made your way here. So we're in the midst of this now, and where was I? I was talking to you about the need for us to be able to contribute and make this thing about Black America being healed must be a real thing. And I'm going to put it in book form this quarter of this year. So I'll be kind of isolating myself in the early part of this quarter because there's some stuff I've got to get out. 2025 is the year of astonishment. It is the year of interjection. Why do I say that? Because biblically the year is not 2025. Biblically the year is 5785. The biblical year starts not at the 1st of January. The biblical year starts at Rosh Hashanah or Rosh Hashanah, which is September. It was September of last year. So we're September, October, November, December, January. We're ending the first trimester of the biblical year. It's 5785. And so looking at those last two digits of the biblical year, 80 and 5, when you examine the Hebrew language is an alpha, numeric, and tonic language. Alpha, numeric, and tonic language. What do I mean by that? Every alphabet has a numerical equivalent, and every number has an alphabetic equivalent. So letters are numbers and numbers are letters. And each one of those letter numbers also have a sound. I'm gonna go back into the office here, and because I want this light in the back here to be on. So it's alphanumeric and a tonic language. Each one of those also have a tone or a sound. So if you've been into any Orthodox Jewish services, you will note that there's a cantor, there's a singer. When the word is read, it's not read and spoken, it's read in song. In many of the instances that take place, there's the singing of it because it's a tonic language as well. So 80 is an equivalent, has an alphabetic equivalent. And 5 also has an alphabetic equivalent. And not only does the alphabets have a sound and a number, but they also have a symbol. Every one of them has a sound, a number, and a symbol. This is a very beautiful language. And I've said these things to you before, James. Good to see you guys on today as well. But stuff like this does bear repeating because people don't get it the first time around. I didn't get it the first time around. It took me some pressing into understanding it, and quite frankly, I think my understanding of it is shallow based upon what could be known and what is known by some. But what I know, I know. What I know, I know. And I want to share that with you. Uh, 80 and 5. 80 is the 17th number value. It is the number value for the 17th letter of the Hebrew alphabet. Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, Zayin, Ket, Tet, Yod, Kaf, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samek, Ayin, Pei. Letter number 17 is the Pei, P-E-Y. Pei, P-E-Y. And letter number 5, Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, is the letter Hey. And Pei, the word, the 17th letter, the symbol for that letter is the mouth. It means to speak. Well, the symbol for the 17th letter means the mouth or to speak. So we're in a decade of the 80s where speaking becomes important. 4, for example, represents points on a compass, and it represents kind of a global concept and idea. So 5784 was this season of time for global publishing of what the mouth is speaking. You saw that not only just in Christian and religious circles, you saw it happen across the scale, across the horizon of humankind. And you're seeing this happen as well. 85, that's number 5, is the word lo or behold or hey. That's how we would say it today. It's like an interjection. So 5785 is the year when your mouth will be filled with interjections. It's like, what? He won? What? I'm gonna give you some interjections here in just a minute about what has happened already on day one. And you're going to see that this year, this season, this time that we're in right now will be a season of interjections. You're going to be saying, what in the world is going on? And I want you to grasp, and I want you to understand, I want you to step into, by the grace of God, what is happening around you. And I have a friend in the city, his name is David Vigil. David, by the way, carries an incredible amount of insight about cryptocurrency. And if you're wondering what you should be doing when the switch is flipped from fiat, that is dollar and coin, to digital currency, how you should position yourself, you need to give him a call. You need to set something up with him, talk, get yourself prepared for it. So as those things unfold, these interjections, these whats, these can you believe it? There will be some surprises coming to many of you. Surprises that will astound you. You never thought you'd be here. You got to pinch yourself to say, for real, is this happening for real? This is that season. 5785 is the season of the interjections being in your mouth, the lo, the beholds, some things that will astonish and astound you. You're in the season where they will take place. And I'm seeing it happen already, as many of you are. And we're thankful to God for it. Remember, you can't do this, make America great again, until you do this, until you make America godly again. Now, when you do that, that hasn't anything to do with your political stance. It has to do with what people in office do, and that becomes very important. But it's more than what they do. It's who they represent. So let's talk now about some of the things that has happened in day one. When the executive branch enters into their power, the chief executive officer, the president in this case, can begin the transformational process by issuing what we refer to as executive orders. So let me tell you about some of them. Uh, One of the things that he has done is that he begun by rescinding 78 executive orders, which were approved by former President Biden, uh, and included in the rescission of those orders was blocking federal lands from being places where drilling could take place. That is no longer the case now. They can now go into these federal lands, know there's oil reserves, and begin to drill. Now, what is that going to do? It's going to do a number of things. There has to be some attention paid on getting the strategic oil reserves back to the proper levels. This prior administration drained those reserves so that if we were in a major conflict with hostile nations, we don't have enough oil in reserves to run our machines, our machinery, our war machines, and to keep them moving. We would break down because of not having enough oil in reserves to keep that moving. So this administration has declared an energy emergency. They're going to open up these lands, these federally owned lands, and they're going to begin to drill on those lands for oil to restore the strategic oil reserves and to begin to sell. Now, this will do a couple of things. Once our strategic oil reserves are back, it will prepare us as a nation to take on any hostility that might come from other nations. But it also, because we'll become energy independent again, it will keep us from dancing at the pump. Man, one of the things that just gets on my last nerve is prices at the gas pump, because they don't have to be that way. They'll fall 10, 15, sometimes 20 cents per gallon in a week. And that's not because the cost of that commodity is fluctuating like that. No, that's political wrangling. But when that drill baby drill thing happens, and it will happen, it won't happen, however, without disruption. You're going to hear that there is a high probability that you will hear about oil spills. Some of that will be the result of sabotage, because when the oil is spilled and the ecology is ill affected, this gives fodder for those against this America First agenda. And it's like a complicated chess game. It will give them opportunity to stand and say, see, this administration is not ecologically sensitive. They are destroying the planet. They care nothing about but their own greed, their own money, their own dollars, all of that. Listen for that, because there's a very keen likelihood that the efforts to retrieve this oil out of the earth and to get it to a place where it can restore our strategic reserves and position us to be able to handle any hostile threat from the enemy in a sustained way, that won't happen without something seeking to disrupt it. Get ready for it. They're not going to stand idly by and watch it happen. But one of the things that these early executive orders did was remove restrictions off of federal lands for drilling. This opens up the job market in terms of the oil industry. And those are good paying jobs. They're dangerous jobs, can be, but they're good paying jobs, and they move the economy forward. People will be. There's several other things that I want to point out to you that is happening right now. So they'll be getting enough pay and sending that pay back to their families, and money will be on the increase. Now, because the cost of oil will sink because we have the ability to produce ourselves, that means it costs less to get goods to market. Right now, the cost of those goods in the market has to cover the cost of transportation to get them there. But when that transportation cost is lessened by the availability of oil, then the price is going to drop. The price of things are going to drop. Oil itself is going to drop, and the price of uh, goods and services that use oil to get there uh, is going to also drop. There's a lot of stuff that's going to be unfolding, but I say to you again, it won't happen without disruption. It won't happen without incident, and neither will it happen without someone saying once a negative um, outcome or a negative experience is a result of some of these initiatives going forward, that will the news media will jump on, it will spin it and have you hating again, have you despised again, and in the whole medical field, there's another plague on the horizon to stoke at the fear of Americans. Yes, there's the anticipation of a golden age. Yes, there is the prospect of things realigning themselves back properly and to be a blessing to the nation and through this nation to the nations of the world. All of that is what is anticipated. All of that is what we pray for. But as I was about to say to you about the black church leadership, a friend of mine, she's a woman of God in this city, sent me a link just the other day. This was prior to the inauguration. That in the Zoom world, there's a there was a an effort to block people from viewing the inauguration. Take on in this Zoom world of leaders, many of them who call these are black leadership, call themselves leaders in the body of Christ. They're so taken with their own myopic view of what God is doing right now. And I'll tell you this as an insert even to that thought. Many of them almost have to do this because they've been bought off. They've been bought off by government programs that have given them millions and billions of dollars toward their own programs. And now the hand that has fed them is now requiring that they say things that are disruptive and that they bought their allegiance. They've got contracts, multi-year contracts to the tune of thousands of dollars. They cannot not say it now. You're not going to walk away with that kind of money from a governmental agency and then not do the bidding of that agency. You've been bought, man. You've been bought. But you don't have to stay bought. You can be free, and you can be a leader that leads others to freedom. This is my prayer for you. We cannot do this. We can't make America great again until we make America godly again. Alexis de Tocqueville was a French philosopher that came to the United States, and he was beginning to examine why this fledgling nation was wielding such power among the nations of the earth. And going through the colonies and trying to find the secret sauce, here's what he came away with. He said, America is great because America is good. He's talking about the faith community, people who put their trust in God, in their documents and in their lifestyle. So America's great because America's good. She ceases to be good, she will also cease to be great. I want you to think about it. Our goodness is not in Elon Musk, it's not in Donald Trump, it's not in Vivek Ramaswamy, it's not in any of Kash Patel. All these are great people. But our greatness does not lie in their leadership savvy, in their decisions. Our greatness lies at the foot of the cross, when we embrace the cross, then God will lift us up. Okay, I'm going to go to a commercial with you here on prayer. And when I come back, I'm just going to run through a laundry list of these because I'm about to run out of time with you tonight. So I'm going to run through a list of these executive orders, and then we'll end our time together tonight. I'll be right back right after this.
Hello, my name is Kathy Carizales, and I'm here to invite you to the I Pray experience here in person at 8023 Vantage Drive, Suite 313, or watch us on Facebook Live at SABWBTX. We are excited to pray for the needs of the city or our government, and we hope that you can join us, like I said, online or in person. It is the Lord's desire that we would spend time with Him and get His job done on earth. God bless you, and I hope to see you.
Thank you so much for being with us here on Transcendent tonight. So we've been talking about day one after the inauguration, and I was going through a list of executive orders. The first one that I talked to you about was him rescinding, President Trump rescinding 78 executive orders approved by the former president of the United States, President Biden. And in that, Biden had set up protection for federal lands that couldn't do no drilling on them and all of that stuff. Well, he's lifted those. Now the drill baby drill thing is going to happen. That will drive prices down at the pump. It will also drive prices down in the grocery store. You're going to see that happen coming into the summer. There is a relief taking place as a result of it. Another executive order declared a national border emergency and ordered U.S. armed forces to repel forms of invasion on the U.S. and Mexico border. Let me throw out this also, that that the Gulf of Mexico got a new name. It'll get a new name as far as we are concerned in the U.S. All of our maps and all of our books will change the name from the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. That not only is just a name change, but it provides, because the name has changed, it will provide activity to take place to secure the safety of the nation, like it had not before. The armed forces will now be used, as was said, to repel forms of invasion. What has taken place in our country under the Biden administration, these porous borders allowed, the last count that I saw in writing from our Border Patrol folks, was this was not just people coming from Mexico. In fact, most of them didn't come from Mexico. They came in through Mexico. And there were scores of nations that were identified as having sent people through our porous southern border into the country with ill intent where the country is concerned. And they emptied their prisons and not emptied their prisons, but sent some out of their prisons and sent some out of their mental institutions to walk the streets of America. And when you have that many people, and there are people on the terrorist watch list, that means that the surveillance apparatus knows that they're involved in terrorism. They've come into the country. And do you think when they hit the border of the country, suddenly they became little saints, little wings sprouted out on their back? They got a little halo on their head now, and they're just a beautiful U.S. citizen. No, there are people here who have an intention for the harm of this nation. And the need for those borders to be secured and for people who are here illegally to be moved out of this country. Wow. That is an unpopular stance, a necessary stance, but a very unpopular one. So that has to be navigated and finessed carefully, although it cannot be avoided. We in our own surveillance apparatus, we have to go after those that we know are on those terrorist watch lists, those who are convicted felons, and find them and move them out of the country until this is a continual process to weed people who are illegally in the country out of the country, especially those that have a hostile uh, desire for the detriment of our nation. It's going to another uh, executive order halted the enforcement of the ban of TikTok. I understand this from some other sources that TikTok was completely owned by the Chinese when the ban went into effect under the Biden administration. Um, some negotiations since that ban was placed, and I think the ban only lasted like a half a day or a day. But when it came back, this um, executive order halted the enforcement because America now owns the lion's share of what happens in the U.S. where TikTok is concerned. That rage is already, their argument is already raging on TikTok. Another executive order mandated how the U.S. government recognizes gender. The U.S. government recognizes gender as male and female. And that's a crazy thing that you have to say that, but we're living in a day when some people, and you've seen it on forums now. I have, as a veteran, I was in the Veterans Office not too long ago, and I saw in the forum where it had male and female, and then it had all these other uh, variations. Well, all that's about to stop as the U.S. government recognizes male and female. That was one of the executive orders. Another one was the change of the Denali. It's a mountain peak in Alaska. Denali is from the language of the Native Americans. It was President Obama who changed it from Mount McKinley. You remember, the U.S. purchased Alaska from the Russians, and for $7.2 million, I think. It's the largest state in the United States. Alaska is. And there was a gold rush into Alaska once it was purchased, and they found gold. And one of the persons who did, in honor of the then Republican President McKinley, called that mountain peak in this newly acquired U.S. territory, Mount McKinley. Although the Native Americans in that region called it Denali, or the Native. Well, they became Native America after it was bought. Before that, it belonged to Russia. When they say belonged, that's a whole new concept of things. That's a pretty in-depth discussion, because in reality, the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, and the people and they that dwell therein. But men have set boundaries. They have nations of people have set boundaries and habitations, places that they will inhabit and control portions of terra firma on the earth. And so between these empires, the U.S. empire and the Russian, Prussia at the time, they came together deciding that this part of the globe, Alaska, would be sold to the Americans. So once they sold it, they named it Mount McKinley. Obama turned it back to the name Denali in favoring the native tongue of the people. This executive order turns it back to McKinley. There is another executive order that, of course, changes the name of Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. Then finally, not finally, but another, released or commuted the sentence of two political prisoners, Enrique Tarrio Enrique Tarrio and Stuart Rhodes. Enrique Tarrio was the leader of Proud Boys, and Stuart Rhodes, the leader of Oath Keepers. Now, in your the news media has made you, when I say Proud Boys and Oath Keepers, you're thinking about skinheads and Aaronists, and and haters and swastika wearers, and that's not what any of these groups are. These are people. These two groups, Proud Boys and Oath Keepers, were people who were just seeing the country in decline and decided not to stand on the sideline and watch it happen. That they would protest. They would protest things that they saw were degrading the quality of life for all people in the country. Enrique Tarrio um, led the Proud Boys. He doesn't sound like a skinhead to me. Enrique Tarrio doesn't sound like a skinhead. Uh, the other, Stuart Rhodes of Oath Keepers, these two were not even in Washington on January 6th, but they were sentenced 22 and 18 years respectively. Tarrio received 22 years, Rhodes 18 years. And they did it, and they received those sentences because they were accused of having their groups incite the riot on January 6th. Though they were not there, they were both arrested and imprisoned and sentenced. This is, in America, the dirty, seamy underbelly of politics. These guys were political prisoners, and they have both been their sentences commuted, or they have been pardoned. They've been released or commuted. The sentences of these two men. There's also been 1,500 people that were accused of rioting. You see, when you say that a riot took place, then you necessarily have to do the things that prove that a riot took place. You got to arrest some people, you got to arrest some rioters. You got to hold them in severity because they said this is the worst thing that has taken place since, uh, who knows when, against the Capitol. It was all a political stunt. And these 1,500 people have had their lives disrupted. There's over 1,600 of them. Some of them are still imprisoned and will be, but most of them, of that 1,600, 1,500 plus, has been released by executive order. So things are moving back into a livable condition, and yet there's much work to do. All of you federal workers now, you got to go back to work in person in your office now. I have a friend of mine who's in the city. If he were in military uniform, he would be in general ranks, and he's telling me that one of the biggest problems he has with people under them is just getting them to come to work. They won't come to work, and when he insisted they come to work, they go over his head to a higher general position, and then they come back to him and say, ease off these people. He had to go to sensitivity training. Oh my goodness. But now the executive order is out, all you federal workers got to return in person back to your jobs. And of course, that's not without exception. There's different things that need to happen that way. I want to say, Sylvia Marybell, thanks for looking in tonight and all that's happening with that. We didn't even talk about Panama, Mark. We didn't talk about the Panama Canal and what will be done, and that the Panama Canal is where it is because it's the most strategic spot in the Western Hemisphere to join these two large bodies of water. Without the Panama Canal, you have to sail all the way down to the bottom of South America and come up the other side. and that's weeks of travel by sea. The Panama Canal joined the Pacific and the Atlantic there and provided safe passage, but uh, it was given away under the Carter administration. Uh, Probably should have never been given away. Not a strategic port like that. Not a strategic port like that. We would need to move our own ships in times of war or even in defense of our nation through that canal. And China largely controls the canal. We didn't give the canal to China. We gave it back to the Panamanian people. They didn't keep it. They didn't keep it under their management. China now controls most of it. Some things will be done to regain control of the Panama Canal. All of this stuff is going to be this year of wow, this year of low, this year of what, this year of are you serious? The years is that actual? You're going to be seeing and saying a lot of that through 2025. Step into your time appointed of the Lord and be the change agents that He intended for you to be, because you cannot do this, make America great again, until you do this, make America godly again. All right. Blessings to you. Love you. And we will see you next week right here for Transcendent. Have a great night. Bye-bye now.